Good evening and welcome back to our question and answer series for Anash.org. Last week I mentioned what Reb Zalman Shimon said regarding the minig in Lubavitch waiting between 6 and 7 not to make Kiddush. So I mentioned that Reb Zalman Shimon said that in Lubavitch it wasn't the minig like that. I just wanted to note that in Yagel Teure, in the Koivitz Yagel Teure, which came out in New York, Gillian Zion, page 15, Reb Moshe Lebeltov writes that he was in Yechidus by the Rebbe, and he asked the Rebbe if the minig Lubavitch was to be makpat, not to make Kiddush between 6 and 7, and the Rebbe answered him, yes, that was the minig. So we have to say that Reb Zalman Shimon mentioned that it wasn't a minig because practical matter it wasn't a minig because it wasn't a Gaia. Because the Rebbe Rashab used to say Chassidus Friday night, and the Bocharim used to learn Chassidus Friday night till late. So automatically it wasn't the minig to wait between 6 and 7 because and in any case they made Kiddush way after 7. As today's day in Yeshiva also, which they make Kiddush, there's a Seder in Yeshiva, and you make Kiddush later. So that's why he said that it wasn't the minig, because he didn't know that minig, because it wasn't practical, because in Yeshiva there were makpad, and the Rebbe Rashab said Chassidus, so it didn't happen that you should finish davening between 6 and 7. But the Rebbe says clear that was the minig, and once the Rebbe said that that's the minig Lubavitch, this is the minig, and Ein Achar HaMelech Klim. Also, last week I mentioned regarding Chatzos, and I mentioned that Chatzos over here is 5:56 till 6:56. That's with the 6 and 7. It's from 5:56 till 6:56 because Chatzos is 11:56. I just want to clarify. Some people asked and just want to clarify that's only in our area, the tri-state area, in our area, Crown Heights, Monsey, Borough Park, this area. But it's not in the whole United States, because as I mentioned last week, it has to do where you are located on the globe. And the further you are from 1, 15, 30, and 60, 40, 30, 45, and 60, it moves. So, by us over here in New York, where we are in Monsey, Borough Park, Crown Heights, this area, we are only 4 minutes away from 12. But there are in the United States places which is way off 5:56. So just to make sure when I say by us over here in America, where my kavanah was, over here in local New York. Okay, next case. Let's go to the next question. When 10 people get together, and instead of doing a regular minyan with tfilas lacha shechazuras hashliach tzibur, one person will say ahoiche kedusha. Is it possible to say chutzi Kaddish prior to Shemoneh Esrei and Kaddish teskabel after Shemoneh Esrei? Yes, the answer is yes. You say Kaddish before Shemoneh Esrei, and then you could say Kaddish after Shemoneh Esrei, Kaddish teskabel, and that's called in the Poiskem and Shechan Aruch a minche ketzura. Minche ketzura means it depends the minig in Ashkenaz or in Sfard, but the concept is basically that you say the Shliach Tzibur says loud Shemoneh Esrei only till after Atu Kiddush, till the first 3 Brachos, in order we should have a kedusha, and then all the people daven Shemoneh Esrei quietly. And once the people finish the Shemoneh Esrei, you say Kaddish. And that's called Tefillah Ketzura. You do it b'oifim where it's a b'di'evet. In such a case, which this person asks, it's a lockdown and you cannot have people to come for a long time in shul, and he wants to make a hoiche kedusha, yes, he could say Chutzi Kaddish before and Kaddish Kabel after. And he could also say a Kaddish after Aleinu too. Next question. You mentioned in the previous class that it will not be okay to unload the dishwasher on Shabbos if it's with cutlery, since it is all together, that means plates which is divided separately, it's not boirer because it's not mixed together, but when you're talking about cutlery, it is together. So the question is one allowed to spread out the pile of cutlery on the counter, then they are no longer touching each other, and then sort them? That means the question is, if you could take a full hand of cutlery, throw it on the table, automatically it spreads. Once it's spread, nothing touches each other. If you could then take it and put it away regularly where it belongs. And the answer to this question is yes, you could do this. Because once you throw it on the table, it is no more mixed together, no more touches us. So now when you pick up all the spoons, let's say, or all the forks and the knives, it is not a problem of boire. This is a chiver Moshe Feinstein, this Moshe Chalik Dalet Simen Ein Dalet, and Rav Osner, paskins like this, also Rav Farkash in his Shabbos Kalucha. You cannot, there's not a problem to do that. But that's with cutlery. But when you have laundry, usually when you throw it, it won't get divided. It shouldn't touch each other. So you have a problem still of boire. If you could do it, throw it, from high up, and every clothing gets divided, then you could still put it away separately, regularly. But it's not metzios. It's not practical. It won't happen. But by cutlery, when you take cutlery, you throw it on the table, it will happen. And once it's divided and it's not mixed together, you could separately put it away where it belongs. Question. You have previously talked about letters on top of a cake. It may not be cut or eaten on Shabbos. Now this also apply to letters made out of sprinkles. The answer is yes. The letters which is put on top of a cake through sprinkles, it becomes a word or a letter. You cannot eat it on Shabbos because it's not part of the cake. If the cake itself is a letter, let's say you make a cupcake which is in the shape of an aleph or like an A, then you could eat it on Shabbos, as we mentioned by that shear. But if you put on top of a cake or a cupcake or whatever it should be, a letter through sprinkles, you cannot eat it. So what do you do Shabbos when you get a cake which says on top Mazel Tov, or you get something on top, words? So the solution to that is you cut off the top of the cake with the letters together. So that means once you take off the top of the cake and has the letters on top of it, you could then eat the bottom part of the cake. But you cannot take off the letters itself and cut between the letters. And the same will go also letters through sprinkles. Question. What are the halachas of waiting between fleishiks and milchiks for a child under the age of chinuch? I think we addressed this question already once, but in any case, till a child is 3 years old, basically you don't need to wait at all. Just give him something to eat or to drink between the milchiks and fleishiks, and it's fine. A child from 3 years old and up till about 5, 6, it is kedai to wait at least 1 hour. Because we have poskim, we say that an hour will be enough. So at least by a child under chinuch, you could use that psak and only wait 1 hour. A child from 6 and up, or 5 and up, depends if it's a sharper child, so then it goes into the geder of chinuch, then you should start waiting regularly 6 hours if it's possible. If a child needs to drink milk, even if he's older than 6, he needs it for his health, then it could be Michael, according to the Chalkas Yankov, till 9 years old, and in Koivis Reb Zalman Shimon, even till the Bar Mitzvah. So again, till a child is 3 years old, you don't need to wait at all. give him something to eat between milchiks and fleishiks, and it should be no problem. From 3 till 5 and 6, you should wait 1 hour. Above 6, if he is healthy, there's no problem. Like tchila, you should be mechamach to wait 6 hours, like the halacha is. And a child is bechir b'mitzvahs, you should be mechanach fully according to the halachas. But if he needs it for help, for his health, then according to the Chalkas Yankiv, you could give him right away afterwards till 9 years old. And the Zalman Shilman says till the bar mitzvah. Next question: if someone falls asleep when it is already dark, but intends to get up in an hour or a few hours when it's still dark, do they need to wash Negel Vasser by the bed? The answer is yes. Once you sleep, and you sleep Kishinas Asis, that means about 16 in the Mechloikis, what is it Kishinas Asis? But at least if you slept an hour for sure, you have to wash Negel Vasser by the bed as if you slept a whole night. Follow up to that question: what is if one falls asleep without Negel Vasser by his bed? The answer is, okay, you fell asleep without Negel Vasser, at least he should go to the sink and wash his hands right away. What should he once he wakes up, he needs to go to the men's room, or needs to go do something, he doesn't have Negel Vasser. What should he do? He shouldn't go get up. So if he can wash by the bed because he forgot to put Negel Vasser, or he fell asleep without putting Negel Vasser, he should go right away to the sink and wash his hands for Negel Vasser. Question: my wife made the Brachos Mo'ere Weish while I started to make the Brachos Havdalah. What should we do? Was she yoitze or not? This is a question which happens a lot, that the husband starts already to make the Brachos Havdalah, and the wife or a child is still making Brachos Mo'ere Aish. Is she yoitze or not? Now, there's a whole shmiz in the poskim regarding this shaila, and to sum it up is that if you have somebody, a neighbor, where you could go and hear Havdalah again, you should go and hear Havdalah again, because some poskim say you're not yoitze, since you were saying in mafsik, in the middle of Brachos Havdalah, you said the Brachos Mo'ere Aish. But if it is such a way or place or time which you cannot go to a neighbor or to a friend to hear again Havdalah, but the Evet, if the wife heard the bracha which the husband said, because even though you make a bracha, you can still hear every word which your husband says, then you are yoitze with the Evet. But if you didn't hear the beginning of the bracha, then you're not yoitze Havdalah, and you should make yourself Havdalah. So again, if it's possible, you should go hear from a neighbor, from somebody else Havdalah. But if it's a time or a place which you cannot hear from someone else, if you heard the full bracha of your husband, that means you heard all the words when he said Baruch Atu Hashem, when he started the bracha of Brachos Havdalah, even though you said Brachos Mo'ere Aish, but the Eved yoitze. There's a chiva in Shal Shivas Egle Dvash about this, and other places that by the Eved yoitze. But if you missed out and didn't hear part of the bracha, then you're not yoitze, and you should make yourself Havdalah. Question: are we machmar like the Dugel Mavuv that a woman should be after davening if she wants to be yoitze from a man that davened already? The Dugel Mavuv writes that that a woman should be yoitze from a man have Kiddush Friday night only if both are after davening. If the woman is before davening and the man is after davening, she cannot be yoitze from the man because the man is only at the Rabbanon because he davened already. And the woman, the lady is still at the Reise before davening. This is what the Meduvim with Kaddish. But the Reb Kiva Eiger does not agree with the Dogma Vuva, and so do other poskim not agree with the Mura Vuva, and the Minhag Olam is not to be machmar on that. Now, if you could be machmar on it, Tuvu Olav Brucha. I know people who are machmar, but Minhag Kluris Minhag Olam is not to be machmar on this Dogma Vuva, and even if she didn't daven yet, she could be yoitze from the husband, and she could daven after the Suda. Question: what if someone was at the kitchen table having coffee and mazoinus or anything else but not hamoitzi, and they got up and left the table without saying the bracha achroina? They had the intention of coming back and continuing to eat and drink. Are they allowed to continue eating and drinking after they come back? Do they have to make another bracha rishoina? And what's about the bracha achroina? This is a very complicated question, and let's make some kind of clarity in it. The question is, a person is eating a piece of cake and coffee, and he picks himself up, walks out from the room where he made the bracha, and he had in mind that he wants to come back and finish eating. What's doing about? Does he make again a bracha? He does not make again a bracha. Now the answer to this question is like this. There's a big difference between, you mentioned coffee and mazonis. A big difference than coffee and mazonis. Why? Because coffee is a thing which you don't need to make the bracha achroina where you are. That means if a person forgets to make a boiler nefushos, he does not have to come back to the place where he ate to make the boiler nefushos. He can make it where he is now. So that means once he goes out from this room, that's called gemar asida. That means the minute a thing which you don't need bracha lachrayim, you don't need to make the after bracha where you are. So therefore, once you leave the room, it is as if you finish the bracha, and therefore, when you come back, you have to make a bracha again. Make nachal a berach shahakl. Only if you had kavanah when you made the bracha to begin with, that you want to start eating and you want to move out from one room to the other room, so then you had kavanah to go mechayder lechayder from room to room, you don't have to make again a bracha. Or if you eat with someone else and you leave the room and a person stays over there, so that's, even though you did not have kavanah to go out of the room, since someone is staying in the room where you're still eating, you don't have to make a bracha again when you come back. So that's the halacha for coffee, shahakal. So when it comes to this shaila, your question, he picked himself up and he went out of the room. If he had kavanah to go out mechayder lachayder, you don't have to make again a bracha, a shahakal. If you did not have kavanah to make but you didn't have kavanah when you made the bracha that you want to go from mechayder lachayder, or you did not have any person which stayed in the room where you ate, so therefore it's as if you finished eating. So when you come back, you have to make again a berches shahakal. But when it comes to mazoinas, it's something else. Mazoinas, pas, that means bread, is a person who went away from the place where he ate, he has to come back and bench. So, since he has to come back and bench, by going away, it's not considered as if he finishes the Suda. So therefore, a person goes away from room to room, and he comes back, he could still eat bread after he comes back, even if he didn't have mind to go away from his place where he eat, he didn't have a mind to begin with that he's going to move from room to room. Since it is bread, you come back and you could still eat, because that's not considered finishing your Suda. So therefore you don't have to make a bracha Rishoyna again. Now when it comes to Berachos Mezonos, there's a machloikas if Berachos Mezonos is like pas, like bread. So therefore, if you leave the room, you don't have to make a Mezonos again. Or it is not like bread, it is like a shahakel, and once you leave the room, it is as if you finished eating and you have to make a bracha again. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe paskins that a person should be machmar not to go out from his place, because you will have a problem of the brucha Rishoyna if you have to make again a bracha. But if he did go away, since we have a sufuk, we should make again a bracha, sufuk bruchas lukl, so you don't make a bracha again. So coming back to your question, a person is eating mezonos, cake, and he drinks a coffee, and he did not have in mind to go away from the place where he's eating when he made the bracha, because if he had the mind he wants to go out from room to room, or he left somebody should stay there, then he has no problem, he doesn't make any bracha again. But if he did not have in mind, he picked himself up and he went out, and he comes back now, the coffee he has to make again a shahakel, and the mezonos you don't have to make again a bracha, because the sufik the brachos nokl, and maybe it is like bread, and you don't have to make again a bracha when you come back. Okay, we're going to stop here, and please join us next week and send in your questions to inbox at Anash.org. Good night and have a wonderful week.